Welcome back to the CogX Hybrid Festival 2021. Welcome back to our next session. We'll be talking about human empathy and conversational AI, banking transformed. It's going to be moderated by Alex Spinelli, CTO of Liveperson.
In a world that's become increasingly digital and distant, HSBC actually chose to invite more customer context, actually engage more deeply with their customers, but providing a trusted, high quality service at scale for millions of customers around the world needs crew solutions. So this is where compassionate and conversational AI come into play. So I'm Alex Spinelli. I'm the Chief Technology Officer of a company called Liveperson, and we are a conversational AI company. And what that means is we create capabilities and platforms that allow businesses around the world to create warm conversational experiences. One of the things that's been really interesting during the last year is, as we've seen the pandemic take root, digital has moved from a convenience to a necessity. And one of the things that's become very apparent is the digital experiences that we've built, that I've been part of building for many years, they fall flat. The searching, the tapping, the swiping, they actually destroy, in my opinion, the ability to really connect a brand to consumer values. So we've seen this shift, and we've actually had to really embrace change. And new technology allows us to actually connect consumers in very different ways. And the paradox, and that's what we're going to talk about today in a moment, is that AI can actually help businesses become much more human and bring that connective tissue between values, intent, sentiment to the digital world that we now require to actually just conduct our lives and do basicness. So I'll stop talking. I want to cut to HSBC. We have Nathan Pearson and Laura Ball who are with us today, and we're going to talk from their conversational banking division, and they're going to talk to us about their journey because they knew they needed a better way to scale that human connectedness through the digital channel. So I will let them introduce themselves. Nathan, Laura.
Thanks, Alex, and afternoon, evening, everyone. So yeah, I'm Nathan Pearson. I'm Global Head of Conversational Banking at HSBC for our Wealth and Personal Banking division. And my job really is to partner with Alex and his team at Liveperson to find ways to transform the bank through these conversational experiences. Laura's part of my team, so I'll let Laura introduce herself as well.
Thanks, Nathan. Hi, everybody. Laura Ball. I work in Nathan's team. My responsibilities are to look after our people within conversational banking for HSBC. So not only considering how they progress their journey with us, but also looking at how do they work alongside and with AI in order for us to be able to deliver that amazing customer experience. Alex?
Great, thanks. So my first question is really about the genesis of this journey. So enterprises have put up barriers for contacts, right? We actually use terms like deflection and containment. We hide our phone numbers. We actually have tried to have people not talk to us, not contact us. So, and especially in banking, I think we've seen a lot of self-service and automation take root. So I'd love to know, why did ADC, find the need to actually encourage more contacts, and what really started this whole journey down conversational banking?
So, I mean, I think, Alex, you touched on this a bit in your introduction, and as an industry, we've seen that digitization over the past 30, 40 years. If you go back before that, we actually, you could go into a branch, speak to the manager, they know you, and you walk away with the product or the service you need, and it's very relationship based. It's not a transactional event. I think what you said there is, through some of these digital journeys, you have turned into these linear experiences, which really do definitely work well for lots of people, but for some customers or at certain times they don't work well. And actually what we wanted, or what we identified, was that really where you can have a digital experience that's supported by the best of our people and the best of our customer service colleagues, that's when you really have those moments that matter, and you really can exceed the customer expectations. We really do, of course, want to be a digital bank, but we see one of the the key strengths is the knowledge and skills of our frontline teams, whether they're in branches, whether they're in contact centres. So what we really wanted to do through these experiences was actually put, like what we've said is it's about putting a banker in every customer's pocket. If you think about what we've done through mobile apps, we've put lots of those same services and experiences you might get within the branch or the contact center, put those in a customer's pockets. They can do it themselves. But what you've lost is that relationship or that human support. And so putting that banker in the customer's pocket as well as the bank is really about the service we're trying to provide right now.
Yeah, it's pretty fascinating how the changes I find just required is that when I use many banks just historically, and sometimes I forget which one I'm in when I look at just their apps, and I kind of lose that personal feel. So I wonder, Laura, if you could touch on from an experience perspective, like what was, when you were looking at the changes required in the experience, like what were the key touch points you were thinking about?
So we were looking at adding our agents to the journeys within those digital self-serve channels. And what we knew from the research we'd done is, yes, customers are absolutely happy to do it themselves and go through that self-serve journey, but they just want that human element at the other end. So they're looking for that support. They're looking for, if this goes wrong, have I got that relationship waiting for me so I can have that conversation? So what from there, we were then looking at what are the most common journeys, what is it that our people really want us to be on the other end of to support them with, and that's where we first started to put our chat agents to give that relationship feel.
So Nathan, banks have used machine learning and AI for some time in the back office. And what you guys have done is thought about how agents and AI can collaborate in the front, right, in the experience. I wonder if you could talk about, were there any reservations in terms of bringing AI and machine learning into the experience that you had to overcome?
Yeah, I think, you're always going to have reservations, particularly, we've all had those kind of frustrating chatbot experiences where all you want to do is you want to talk to a person and you just get stuck in this loop where this machine doesn't understand what you're saying, and you keep repeating yourself and you just can't get through to anyone. So I think that was always the first reservation, is how do you make this a good customer experience rather than a frustrating one. And then so really what we had to do was just start simple. Start with some of those most simple queries that are high volume, low effort, low empathy, and actually that's the first area you can automate. A bit like some of those back office interactions you touched on there, Alex. Those are the things that we always automate first. So once we'd kind of proved in a simple query environment you can automate it, then you can start to build and iterate and start to do things that are more complex. I mean, I think the big reservation really is when we did introduce chat and messaging as customer service channels, they actually had our best customer satisfaction scores and our best net promoter scores in those channels. So you really didn't want to lose that good customer experience. We didn't want the journeys to feel robotic, and so that's why it was a bit scary to begin with, but what we're really confident and happy with now is that we have seen some of that great customer experience replicated through our automated AI experiences.
Let's shift gears a little bit to the people element, right? Because like HSBC, Liveperson, we're very hopeful about AI. We feel positive about it. We don't look at it as a evil job killer. For sure, it's going to have implications. For sure, it's going to change jobs and change roles in the world. It's going to have a very big impact, has had a big impact. But we really look at it, and I think we've always connected on this philosophy, that it's really a tool to augment and enhance workers and improve lives. I'd love if you could, Laura, if you could, this is, I know, an area you're really passionate about, if you could talk about the people element, the staffing element, and how you thought about, one, getting over that fear where people do think I'm going to be automated out of a job. And then what you actually had to do to leverage it and extend it and actually really get those benefits and on the people side and the staffing side. So important.
And And I think the passion is actually shared with our colleagues within HSBC that are now involved with the AI. So hopefully we've shared some of that. But what we looked at doing is actually really unique. So we didn't want to go externally and look at getting technical experts in. We've worked with Liveperson to understand actually how can we bring to life for our frontline teams that opportunity to build AI. So what we chose to do was look at, we've got our frontline chat colleagues. Those are the people that know our customers best. They've been messaging them for a number of years now. They understand how our customers speak to us. They understand what our customers want. So why would we look anywhere else to build our chatbot content? Why wouldn't we get our frontline teams to build that for us? And what that has really provided an opportunity for is something that our people have been asking us ever since we started with chat a number of years ago is, I really want a career in this space. But what I don't want to have to necessarily do is go away and spend years educating myself in a technical environment. So what is awesome about this is we've got a career path now for our frontline teams who may not necessarily have that technical chatbot build skill, but they've got that customer and human empathy skill. And they have a career path where we've now built a global scalable model of building chatbot content from those people on the front line. And I mean, it's hugely received from those individuals. We've got people contacting us constantly to see when is it that we're opening up some more roles in this space. It's exciting, it's innovative, it's what I really want to get involved with, and we're starting to see that passion of working alongside and with AI come through into our frontline teams as well, which I think is really important to get away from what you mentioned, Alex, that fear of AI is going to take over the world and take over the jobs.
So one of the things when we met, this is probably a year and a half ago, and we were talking about as you added new capabilities to the mobile app, you actually saw contacts to the phone, the contact center go up. So I wonder, like, was that one of the things that kind of triggered the way you need to think about the collaboration between the self-service tools, messaging tools, contact center, and this AI? I've always, that was one of the most striking things to me, that the journey that many of us has been on, add more self-service, prevent people from calling, and actually as you moved into digital, we saw an increase in contacts. So I wonder if you could talk about what's happened with the number of contacts and the types of contacts now that you've gone down this conversational route.
Yeah, and I mean, it's interesting. It's almost counterintuitive, and then when you start to think about it, it makes complete sense. I mean, as you said, what we've done as an industry and across industries over the years is you've added ways of deflecting customers, as you said. You know, those IVRs, you know, those annoying touchstone buttons in the when you call in, to try and avoid customers talking to a human being. That's kind of prevalent across industries, and you know, but there is self-service options there. The same similar self-service options in digital. But what you've done by introducing that stuff is you've made those things really simple kind of go away. But then you've actually introduced more complexity. And if people don't understand them, they really need to speak to someone, and they really want to speak to you immediately because they're trying to do it themselves, but they can't. And that's why they have to call you. That's when it turns into a really lengthy phone call, because I don't know if anyone's tried to reset some of their digital banking credentials recently. That can be really difficult, and you really want to get into that website to do stuff yourself, but you end up having to call in. You end up having to have a long conversation where you work out how to do that. So it's actually, yeah, really frustrating for customers and for everyone involved in the kind of that digital experience, that what you think is solving a customer problem is actually just shifting the shape of the customer problem. And actually sometimes you solve for half of the problem only. So if you give an example of, I lost my credit card, really common inquiry, right? Okay, you build a digital journey, you build a button that says cancel my card, great. But actually, if that's your credit card, are you confident that that's blocked? Or do you actually want to speak to someone and say, is my card definitely blocked? And also, actually, I'm in a foreign country, maybe not during COVID, but once upon a time, I'm in a foreign country and I need some cash. Where can I go?
We'll get there again.
Yeah, no, hopefully. But that's the sort of the secondary need or the third need that a customer might have. And quite often the self-service journey doesn't exist for that, because maybe it's niche, maybe it's a bit left field. And that's where actually just having the simple thing of a chat button in that journey gives that customer the confidence and the confirmation that what they've done is fine, and actually gives them that extra piece of information. And some of that can be done through bots, through AI. Some of that does need a human agent to support it. And that's kind of, I think, where that interplay works perfectly. Is you have all this data from the calls that you're getting about customers. You then can use that to design some of these chat and these bot journeys, and then you integrate that with the digital experience. It turns into a really neat customer sort of self-service with empathy interaction that I guess we're supposed to be talking about today.
Right. Yeah, I guess one of the interesting things for me as a consumer is the call is very transactional, right? The emails, but once I'm in messaging and I have that long running dialogue, that long running conversation, it feels very different, right? I can always go back to it. I see the confirmation, and I've had that situation where a credit card was lost in a foreign country and I just couldn't get a hold of the unnamed bank that I won't talk to. I wonder, Laura, if you can talk about, how did you, so you're doing something new, you're experimenting, there's new channels, there's new AI, there's new roles that have to be introduced on the contact center side. For the consumers though, how did you gauge their acceptance of this? And I guess two-part question, what did consumers really like? What did they love? And then what didn't work so much? What wasn't working?
Sure. So I think consumers loved, like any human nowadays, we all are short on time. So I think they loved the fact that they were able to chat with us, not come out of their channel, and resolve their problem through an agent being there. So again, that human piece at the end. I think what perhaps we saw a little bit more challenging was things such as when we were introducing the AI. Actually, with the natural language understanding, how are we making sure that the AI understands our customers as our agents understand them? And we did see a few early challenges, which were really good learns for us around actually that language a customer may use will be very different to what we would use in financial services. And perhaps sometimes we did see customers put some language in, such as, my husband passed away. The NLU looked very much at the word away and considered, actually, you're going away on your holiday. Thankfully for us, the customer had a great sense of humour, and once was through to a chat agent, we were able to resolve it for them. But it's those early learns for us that have helped us understand, actually, how do our customers speak in a way that isn't financial services jargon? What is it that they're looking for through that channel, through that AI? And actually, one of the other sort of challenges is not just language as in AI language, but also local languages across the world. So we, being an international organization, have customers looking to speak to us in different languages as well. And it's how do we make sure that we have that service available to those customers globally?
Yeah, Nathan, you and I have talked a lot about scaling globally. I wonder if you can double click on that a little bit, and some of the interesting challenges with multiple language, different ways of working. I'm sure we're in an audience of folks that work across the globe. So when you're thinking about channels, AI, new technologies, I wonder if you can touch on some of the big things that you had to overcome thinking globally.
Yeah, I mean, there were many challenges in scaling globally, as you know well, Alex.
Yeah.
I mean, I think Laura's touched on a bit of this, but we did start we started in this journey in the UK with English language, and with one brand. We have multiple brands in the UK and across the globe, but we thought, let's start small. Let's test out a small set of journeys. Actually prove that this model works. Actually prove that customers like it, and that we can actually deliver what we think we can deliver. We expanded to our other brands in the UK. First Direct is one of them, very much famed for its great customer service. And we now have a chatbot supporting the customers in those journeys, which is a big thing. FD is known for human customer service. It's really good telephone service, but actually we're doing great stuff in the conversational space now. That enabled us to really lift and shift processes and models from brand to brand, and then from country to country. Once, like a lot of these things, prove something works, and then the rest of the businesses and the rest of the world follows. So we now have that global structure in Bangalore and out in China, and we're now able to deliver some of these things for multiple markets, whether it's Canada, the UAE, and some of our Asia brands, all being served out of one country. So that was the first piece of actually just finding something that works. I think there were multiple others. We see customer behavior is different in different markets. China is one of our big brands, or one of our big businesses for HSBC, and they adopted conversational AI before the rest of the world, to be honest. If we look at the way that their customer contacts come into the bank, they are nearly sort of dominant in the conversational channels, whereas we see other parts of the business where there's much smaller adopters. So actually, it's how do you adjust the channels and the experience to meet those customer expectations in the different parts of the world, and what the channels are. China, WeChat, massive channel that is leading the way in conversational commerce across the globe. Whereas the rest of the world, we see WhatsApp as a more dominant messaging channel, and then the US are still kind of laggards in the world of SMS. So there are all these different channels you can bring in. There were the bots and the languages, and the biggest one really, actually, and we still haven't solved it, to be really open, is multiple languages in one conversation. Some of those customers in Hong Kong and in Asia and other parts of the world, like to switch between languages. They might start off in English, throw in a couple of Mandarin words or some Cantonese, and then continue, or vice versa. And actually, how do you have an AI model that can understand that? I understand it's a pretty common challenge in the industry. And Alex, I don't know if you've got any experience or learning, or how do you address those kind of things?
It's definitely a hard problem. It's an area of pretty strong focus on the science side to understand and recognize when someone's switching languages. Or in the US, there's a lot of folks who English is second language, and they combine languages in kind of a pseudo language way. I wonder, so I've lived in a few different places, and I've always noticed the cultural differences in terms of how services are provided and what different consumers in different places value. Laura, I want to just touch on quickly, from an experience perspective, did you create a role that understood the conversational commerce differences? How did you get into that to really understand the nuance and the difference?
Yeah, so we ended up creating a number of roles, actually, Alex, in order to support this model. So the roles we have are very much around, yes, we've got the roles that agents go into to build the content, but we've also got chatbot managers and frontline agents that are constantly monitoring chats and monitoring the data that we get from the chats, particularly those where we're seeing the chatbot isn't able to contain the conversation and we're having to hand off to an agent to resolve for the customer. What we're looking to do there is understand why. Why is the chatbot unable to resolve that? Is it that we just haven't built the right content, or is there a language piece there that we need to do some work on? So those individuals spend their time looking at that data, looking at real live chats, and feeding back into our conversational studios in Bangalore and Guangzhou on how can we optimize the content for the chatbot. So moving forward, we are able to support those customer conversations. And that's something that we're continuously working on. So we are looking at the moment, how do we move forward with those roles and again, enhance those roles, as we've learned a lot from the last 18 months. How do we now enhance those roles again, give our people the additional skills, perhaps train them with some additional knowledge so we can continue to make that customer experience enhanced, particularly around some of that language in AI.
Yeah, that's cool. I often, we believe at Liveperson that conversational can be the primary experience, and I'll ask you a little bit about that later. Like I think my contribution to your digital world is I think we took us in an odd direction with hamburger menus and left-hand navigation and those kinds of things. And we often encourage folks to think about conversational experiences with the same rigor around design that you do on your website and your app and your logo and those kinds of things. And it's really great to see how you're basically inventing new career paths and roles that are fundamentally around designing dialogue and conversations, which is less about the visual experience and much more about the human experience. So that's really cool. This is a question for both of you. What were you touched on a few of these, but like, what was like an aha, like surprise? Like, oh, wow, that's harder than I thought, or wow, that's really going to work and we're going to double down on that. And those are always valuable learnings. I don't know who wants to take it first.
I can go first. So I think a real aha moment for us was 18 months ago when we started out on this journey. We only expected, as Nathan touched on earlier, to be supporting sort of UK brands and English language. And actually 18 months down the line, the pace at which we've managed to deliver across 9 markets, but at a real quality as well. So we're still seeing some of that efficiency that we would expect to see from AI. We're still seeing some great customer feedback. But actually, we've managed to scale this to 9 markets as opposed to 3 UK brands. And I think for me, that's sort of testament to those individuals that we have put through that new career path, put into them new roles. They are awesome at what they do. They've picked up the knowledge and learning and the passion, that we hoped they would. And 18 months down the line, we are just much further on than I ever hoped or dreamed we could be. So for me, that's my real aha moment.
Nathan?
Yeah, I mean, that's our biggest achievement. That's one of the things I'm most proud of, the scale and pace at which that team have delivered. I think the one for me was actually, the customers do actually really like these channels. Like, I think we started off on this as a bit of we think customers will like it and we think this will be a good idea, but there was always that kind of nagging doubt. Is actually, bots can be really poor experience. This might actually, customers might not like it. They might prefer just self-service. They might prefer to call us. Like, there's, I wasn't convinced until we kind of did it and saw. And I think really the aha was First Direct. First Direct, I think I've touched on it already, but is famed for its customer service across all industries, not just banking. And the fact that even those customers love it, it's the highest performing channel in terms of Net Promoter Score. That really kind of sold it for me, was that we do like this, we are on the right path, and there's a load more opportunity we can go on and deliver beyond this.
Yeah, and just to start to wrap up, and we do invite questions if there are any. I wonder if you mentioned just now, but if you guys can hit on like the business outcomes. Because like, obviously this is great, people like it, agents like it, a lot of, we put our money where our mouth is on this stuff. So what you can share, if you could, what are some of the kind of key results and business outcomes here?
So, I mean, I'll start. I mean, we talked about customer satisfaction and Net Promoter Score already. That's kind of knocking it out of the park right now. We know customers
so
are
this
chatting.
Highest channel for NPS at this point.
Yeah,
that's amazing.
Yeah, and if you remember, this channel exists within another channel. It exists within the digital pages or within the mobile app, and pretty much universally, it is the best. It is the highest performing channel right now. The other piece is there is an element of call deflection. We do want to help customers chat to us more, and hopefully they'll call us less. We get some efficiency from that, and we are seeing calls going down and chats going up in pretty much all of our markets, which is good news, because we think it's a better channel, and it's for the reasons we've talked about already. So those are the two key outcomes, right? There's the customer satisfaction and the kind of the efficiency, and they're both trending significantly in the right direction.
And then Laura, on internal metrics, agent metrics, and those kinds of things, what have you seen? Yeah.
So we also measure sort of NPS from an internal perspective for our employees, and we're seeing great engagement from that with some of their feedback. What they're also loving is not only the career path, but actually the support we're providing them through that, the training and the coaching throughout their roles. So everything we're seeing from them is positive. All the metrics that we measure from our people perspective are again trending in the right direction for what we're looking for. And we also look to invite feedback from our people so we can continuously look to support them as we go. So I'm really pleased with how it's going for them.
That's great. So just to wrap up, any parting thoughts, any predictions of where this is all going and what we're going to see from either one of you?
So, I mean, I think there are numerous possibilities here, and Alex, it'd be interesting to get your view on this as well afterwards. But I mean, from my perspective, I think we really can blend the best of human empathy and machine artificial intelligence in every interaction with the bank or with other organizations as well. There's so much data available that we really can personalize those interactions. And it's not just customer facing. I think there's actually a piece for our staff as well. And actually, how do you make life easier for our staff? There are loads of sci-fi movies out there. I won't talk about those kind of things, but actually, can you give a virtual assistant to your relationship managers, your staff working in branches or contact centers that actually are telling them all that customer information, helping them with the simple mundane tasks, so that actually they can just focus on that part about building the customer relationship, understanding their needs, and helping the customer meet their needs. That's kind of where we would love to get to, and moving away from mobile devices or websites, and actually, can you work with smart speakers or headphones or other wearables? There's all that opportunity to bring together that AI and automation, but integrated with the best of our frontline people who really know the customers, know the bank and our values. That's kind of how we see this all coming together as part of human empathy and artificial intelligence to transform the bank and the industry.
Great. So a couple questions did come in. So Laura, I rather than these lead in that direction too. So I wonder if I can send them off to you.
Sure.
I thought this was an interesting one. We didn't touch on it. I think it is important. We talked about different cultures and different regions. Have you seen anything where consumers of different age groups or demographics prefer the conversational channel versus traditional channels?
It's a really interesting question, and one that we've looked into on a number of occasions. And I think what we have to do with conversational channels is be really open-minded and not put a bias on that the older population wouldn't want to use conversational channels, because actually what it boils down to when we've looked at our customer base and asked them these questions historically is if you show me how to do it and you support me in how to do it for the first once, twice, 3 times until I'm really comfortable, then I'm happy to do it. And that's not age related, that's just customer confidence related. So there are certain, I think, categories of people that would prefer to use at one channel or another. And that's why it's really important we work with our branch and voice colleagues, as Nathan's mentioned, to integrate conversational banking. But I don't think we need to put a bias on which age categories are using it. We've seen all ages be really open to it.
Yeah, I totally agree. That's the way I communicate with my mom at this point. And I think she loves it because she can always get a hold of me and tell me something. So, and then Nathan, I wonder, this is always an often question that we hear, personality and in the chatbot, in the AI. I know you guys think a lot about this. If you can just touch on your view on introducing more personality, quirkiness, or terseness. So there's a lot of different approaches to this to make it feel less cold and robotic. And I think that's a theme of this compassionate AI. And what's your view on that? And where will you continue to go in surfacing that HSBC personality in chat?
Yeah, no, it's a really interesting question. I mean, we actually did do some customer testing in the US, probably maybe 2 or 3 years ago. And we actually got some script writers in from Disney to sort of test out some of the scripts, and we went really kind of quirky. And actually the feedback was like, you're our bank, we don't need you to be that quirky. Like, you know, we want the information, we want it quick, we want you know, straightforward, easy to understand, but like being really fun wasn't the kind of overarching feedback from the customers at the time. I think it depends kind of country to country, market to market, but it is something we are very passionate about within my team and within the bank, is to actually, you know, have the right tone of voice for our customers, and, you know, matching that to the customers in the market. It, you know, it differs you know, significantly. I mean, I think one of the opportunities is you know, that AI allows is to offer some kind of personalization based on the language the customer uses, potentially. It's not something we're doing right now, but I think it's something that hopefully, you know, yourself and your teams, Alex, are bringing solutions that could solve for those kind of things.
Yeah, and just my view from working across many different industries and customers is, I agree. Like trying to go too quirky or too verbose can be a little off-putting. But certainly, what is your brand's personality? What is your brand's values? You know, are you utilitarian? Are you friendly? Are you warm? And you have an opportunity to really talk to your customers, just the way business. We often say, like, imagine if there wasn't a website, there wasn't an app. How did we conduct business? Businesses were conducted a lot for many thousands of years without websites, by talking and having conversations. And those personalities and values is how, you know, consumers connect. And you can do that with precision and really just thinking about that language, just the way I'm sure HSBC trains its branch staff. Like, how do you greet someone? How do you talk to someone when they have a problem? There's a lot of thought that goes into that, and you have to bring the same thought, I think, to this channel as well. Okay, so I think that will cover it. There's no more questions coming in. And again, I offered you some parting thoughts. Any last parting thoughts, Laura? Nathan had an opportunity to talk to it.
No, I just think it's really exciting in financial services to be doing something that is so cool and cutting edge, and it's great to work in and have our people so involved with it. So I look forward to seeing what we do over the next 18 months when it comes to AI.